pay it?
Well, I can give you installments of March, so that helps.
Nah, like, what's the alternative to paying the council tax?
Alternative?
Yeah?
Well, everyone has to pay the council tax. That's what the law says.
The
You
law?
can get benefit off, or you can get single person discount ourselves.
The law says that everyone has to pay council tax.
If you're the occupant of a property, then you have to pay council tax.
What law is it?
The local government for an act.
What pardon? What pardon?
The Local Government Finance Act.
The local government is an act.
That's Parliament.
But acts of parliament aren't. I thought everyone saying acts of parliament require the consent of the governed to get the full force of the law.
Sorry, beg your pardon.
I thought parliament needs the consent of the governed to get the full consent and full force of the law. That's how I understood legislation.
Well, I mean, everyone in the country is an occupant of a property that they own the house. So if they don't own it, the tenants of the property is an actual themselves. Then the tenants of the property, or the owner-occupied is in there.
Right.
Pays council tax for the whole services provided.
But what I'm saying is if I've got a road and I live in a road with 20 of my neighbours, if 19 of my neighbours choose to do something, that doesn't mean I'm confused, because the way I understand it is that I don't lawfully have to pay that, and it seems that the understanding is that, well, everyone does it, so tag along. I'm just somewhat confused by the whole thing.
No, everybody is legally obliged to pay council tax.
Legally? Oh, sorry, I think that's where the confusion is. I concentrate on lawful, not legal. Legal's what's written by people, and lawful's what's important, isn't it, at the end of the day?
Well, that's what the Local Government Finance Act was brought out in 1992 to replace the poll tax where everyone had to pay something themselves.
So who is it that the money's... Who's the money go to? Witness Council?
It goes to Halton Borough Council.
Is that a corp...
Keep of the borough.
The Halton Council... Is that a corporation, the council, or does it go into the money of the country? Because the country's a corporation, isn't it?
No, it's going to Halton Borough Council, just the borough that you're living in.
So am I right in assuming if I didn't pay this council tax, we'd be in legalese terms, I don't agree, would that be a civil dispute?
Well, what would happen if you didn't pay the council tax? We would be legally obligated to go through a recovery procedure, you see, which we don't want to do, obviously.
But see, the thing is...
procedure involves having the summoned and then a liability order added onto the account.
Liability
and that
order?
allows us to take money from people's earnings if they're working,
How?
or if they're on benefits, to do an attachment to benefits or whatever.
So, okay, so you're telling me that if someone doesn't pay, that you can get a detachment from earnings, a detachment from benefits? Well...
We do that all the time.
Yeah, well, okay, well, what if that I don't use bank accounts, and I only dealt with cash in hand, and I don't claim benefits? What would be your procedure for targeting me? Because them other methods sound a bit sneaky, but it seems fortunate that I don't use bank.
We go to your company for an attachment to earnings.
You go to my company?
Who have you working for? It's not if you are working.
I'm self-employed, I work for myself, so that's what I mean, you'd be coming to me at the end of the day.
I didn't know that until you just said it.
Because I'm confused, because if I didn't have a bank account that you couldn't steal money out of, and I didn't have a boss who you could tell a lie to get me wages, what would the procedure be then to get me money if we were in the civil dispute and I was refusing to pay council tax? I'm just curious, I don't mean to sound like I'm being cocky with you whatsoever.
But what would happen is then, the alternative at the end of the day, which you don't want to do, obviously, is to go to a bailiff company, but we don't want to do that.
How can you do that though? Because a bailiff's a third party interloper, and without proof of claim, the bailiff haven't got a leg to stand on, and I'd have to enter into contract with a bailiff, and that's legal. That's not lawful, that's legal. I've never entered into contract with a bailiff.
We don't have to enter into a contract with the bailiff. We're obligated under the Local Government Finance Act to recover the council tax.
See, I've had a couple of run-ins with bailiffs, and they've come with this, and what's happened is, initially, police were called, so my initial concern when I've had problems in the past, I said, why are the police assisting in a civil dispute? And the officer said, well, there may be a breach of the peace. I said, there's no breach of the peace, officer. These are experiences I've had. I said, as far as I know, I've got gentlemen at my door claiming that I owe money. I said, before I give this money, I require proof of claim, which you obviously aware of what proof of claim was. They've also tried waving a warrant round in front of a police officer, what wasn't signed and printed by a judge, and they were telling that police officer that they could come in our house, but yeah, when that police officer rung his sergeant said that the warrant wasn't real and that they did require proof of claim, and the bailiffs got sent on their way. So, that said, my logic now is, if I go down this same route and don't pay my council tax with other means, that's a civil debt. When the bailiffs come, if they haven't got proof of claim, I don't owe them any money, and they haven't got the grant. Yeah, but that's you. You're a private company though, aren't you? You're a private company and you're basically going to someone else and saying, he owes us money. For me to owe anyone money, I have to enter into contract. I haven't entered into contract to do with council tax, so I'm not liable for it. And you do though, because that's what a contract is. You're talking legalese, I'm talking lawful, and this is where I'm getting confused and I don't know what's going on. Can we clarify something else as well? Someone told me that a bailiff force entry over council tax, but that's impossible because it's a civil debt. You couldn't possibly. I'm telling you now, no bailiff has got the power to come into anyone's home. If someone opens the door and the bailiff gets his foot in the door and puts him in a position then where it'd be a breach of the peace, I'd personally launch the bailiff out the door because they're in my property. If anyone come in my property, I'd launch them out the door without knowing it is. But what I'm saying is, I'd just like to avoid all the confusion, but it seems that you're telling me that these bailiffs would be able to force entry over council tax, and I know that they couldn't. You couldn't force it over a civil debt, and you could only force it over criminal. This is a civil debt. So how would then bailiffs have the grounds to come in? And obviously, I'm being sensible. What I'm saying to you, no, this is what I'm saying to you. I don't want to pay my council tax, and what I'm saying to you is I understand it's a civil matter. So what I'm saying to you is I'm asking you your procedure. You're telling me that you'll get a warrant, and I'm saying I know that warrant will be void. I won't let the bailiffs near my property, and every warrant has to be signed and printed by a judge. That's the law of the land, that. Everyone knows that, even the local police, because the local constabulary is supporting us against bailiffs now when we've had problems like this. But I don't need to write into anyone because I'm not the one demanding anything. This is a private company demanding that I owe them money. This is a little bit like the tellyman, and the tellyman gets scarred. You don't have to pay your telly licence, but they tell you that's a law. And I'm not. No, you don't. That's a private company. If you watch live television, you have to pay a television licence because that's part of the thing. But I don't watch live television. And to be honest, the BBC, well, I've got my own opinions on the BBC, but that's not up for me to be discussing with you because obviously you're there telling me about council tax. You pay money to the BBC. The BBC support paedophilia. They're a private company. It's like me setting up a company and then sending everyone a letter in the country saying, blah, 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 blah. I don't require the service. That's what I say to the telly licence man when he comes. You're a private company. I don't require your service. So it's the same sort of thing. It's a civil matter. The police can't get involved unless there's a breach of the peace. There's not going to be no breach of the peace because I'm a lawful man. So I'm just confused, and obviously you're my local council and my local authority, and I genuinely just want advice, and I just want to know what you're going to do, because, like I say, I'm a lawful man, I just don't have...
I've just mentioned the procedures that we go through. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you, really.
But it's a lie to tell me you could force entry when you couldn't, and it's a civil debt, so I don't know...
Why don't we just sensibly, I mean, if you want to just pay your council tax,
no, but
I can make an arrangement.
You're not offering me an alternative. You're telling me I have to pay council tax, and I'm telling you I don't.
We have to pay for the upkeep of the company, you see.
Well, you see, five different boroughs in this country, what they're doing with council tax, they use the excess council tax and indirectly invest it into arms companies, so it isn't generally for the upkeep. The bins get emptied. Yeah, that's in black and white, that. The bins get emptied every 2 weeks. You can't get the police for everything. There's holes in the road. The NHS is falling to bits and people can privatise it. So I don't know how you can tell me that any council tax is for the local infrastructure, because all the infrastructure's falling apart. They've not even got benefits for people on the dole.
If you've got concerns about that, I would suggest you see your council and discuss that.
See, I've arranged to go into my... I've arranged to go into my local council because I'm going to be discussing...
Your council, I mean,
Yeah, well, I'm going to the local council meeting soon to discuss Magna Carta Article 61 and its invocation in 2001 by the Barons Committee. That's quite important. That's basically saying that all legislation's void and the courts have no power anymore, and that's been active since 2001, and I just need to know where the local council stand with all it. Do you know what I mean? Because I've signed up for that. I basically sent my oath of allegiance to a baron 6 months ago, and as far as I know, I'm void from all legislation anyway. So where does the council stand in relation to Article 61 of Magna Carta?
I don't know anything about that.
Article 61 Magna Carta is a very important thing, and it was, you know, the barons petitioned the Queen.
It was signed in 1215.
Yeah, well, the barons petitioned the Queen in 2001, and they wanted answers as to why Britain was entered into the EU. The Queen never gave the barons redress. So, no, I'm telling you, the country's in a state of lawful rebellion. I just wondered where the council stood with this.
I can't comment on the country being in a state of lawful rebellion.
No, the country is. The EU was the brainchild of the Nazis. Should we fail in the war, they said, well, we'll get through it with politics, and that's in black and white, that. Do you know what I mean? We're a sovereign country. We shouldn't have been signed into the EU, should we? We've got them on it.
Well, Mr. Heath did that.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. That was treason. This is what I'm saying. This was the instigation of Article 61 Magna Carta. So what?
About Article 61 of Magna Carta.
And the other thing is no fine or bill should be levied against the judge, and a judge can't. That was the 1689 Bill of Rights. So how can a judge possibly interfere in a civil matter which they won't? Which is why a judge never signs the warrant. Which is why when these silly bailiffs
Well,
come.
if you go into a very legal argument,
I'm a lawful man. I'm a lawful man. Legalese is
yeah, I'm not
a
saying
problem.
that. If you want to enter an election, and they will say legal.
So shall I write to your council asking them, telling them that I'm not going to pay council tax and give me reasons? So I can give me reasons then, can't I? And then hopefully I'll get a letter back off the council.
And then the council can address your issues in everything like that. I think your issues are getting into a legal argument.
No. I stick to the facts. The thing is that we live in a time of deceit and lies.
I think it needs someone in our legal department responsible to
Yeah.
taking a policy really.
Well, the other thing is that I've sent my oath of allegiance to the Baron, and it basically says that my duty now as an Englishman is to distress the regime and to not pay any unlawful levies, and I've got that in black and white. I've got me proof that I sent to the Baron, and a Baron's a lot higher up than the bloody council, so my allegiance is with the Baron. And with
The Baron?
I can't quite remember his name, you know. There was 3 what I wrote to. The first 2 barons, they didn't reply to me, so I had to go online. And what it was you had to write to certain barons that had petitioned the Queen. I thought you could just write to any barons, and you have to pledge your allegiance. It's actually really complicated, and when you get into it, it's really interesting. But the basis is it's
Oh, I don't say it is. I don't say it's very interesting.
well, it's to defend our country and defend our freedom, because we're all sovereign at the end of the day. We're being dictated to by Nazis, by paedophiles, by charlatans, by Zionists. It's not on. I want my country back to the Great Britain, what it could be. Do you know what I mean? It's a farce the way things are, and the way to start doing it is to stop paying the council tax, because that's the only way we can distress the regime in a lawful manner, because I have to remain lawful. I can't do anything what's unlawful. I can't create loss, harm or injury.
Okay.
So where do you... So as far as you're saying now is you give me the time for the phone call, which I appreciate. I've stated my case, and you're going to ask me now to write into your legal team with
But
all of
if
the...
you want